Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The rains haven't come. I actually don't know what's going on with the rain here in South Florida, but the heat is here, and that can affect our houses, our workspaces, our offices. And I presume the rains will be here sooner than later, as it feels like summer is upon us here in South Florida. All that can do a number to our home, whether it's fire, water issues. No worries. Water Cleanup of Florida has you covered. 954-579-0356 are the digits for you to dial so that they will alleviate any of your issues with your home or office water or fire problems. Michael, Robert, George, their entire team with over 60 years of combined experience really do a heck of a job. They did a fantastic job for my wife, myself. They'll do it for you. 954-579-0356. Also with licensed, certified, insured contractors, they make it easy. And that's the thing. Look, a lot of service companies will get the job done, but will they make it easy? No, they won't. I've dealt with plenty of service providers, and no one was like Water Cleanup of Florida, both with communication and just getting the job done, and then making it look brand new to the point where I remember my wife and I on our townhouse going, where was it again? Because they had done such a great job. They'll do that for you. Check them out on their website, WCUFL.com, on the socials, at Water Cleanup FL. If you have the schmutz, believe me, Water Cleanup has the guts. The Miami Heat had plenty of guts. They just fell short with injuries and talent. We talked with Mr. 5 Reasons Sports, Ethan Scoop Skolnick, about what he is looking for the Heat from this offseason and the big Jimmy Butler question. Here, the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
From 5 Reasons Sports Network. It's founder, it's CEO, it's driving force, it's Jalen Brunson, it's Ethan Scoop Skolnick. How are you, my friend? How's everything going?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Doing well, sir.
Doing all right. I mean, I'm still, it was appropriate
annoying.
I had an omelet for breakfast because I still have some of it dripping off my face after predicting the Pacers would win Game 5 last night. So I was a little bit off on it. How do you account for this, Ethan? You've been following the NBA forever, so have I. But you in much greater detail, of course, especially in the last decade or so. These reverse blowouts that are occurring in the postseason. How is that possible? That you could win a game by 30-something on your home wood and then come out and get crushed like a grape by the same team, depleted Knicks team, and lose by 30 the ensuing game? That seems almost inconceivable.
Well, I think we've seen a lot more of these because of the three-point shot, to be honest, because it just escalates things. Team gets on a roll and the games get away. I think there's been some data shown that we actually have fewer clutch games than we used to have. Again, the scores get a little bit higher, the threes. Then there's a confidence issue on the other side trying to come back, teams trying to trade 2 for 3s, etc. I think that's part of it. I also think part of this is honestly that none of these teams are really that good.
Yeah.
I really think that's a lot of it. I mean, especially what the Knicks had on the floor yesterday. But this Pacers team is not elite by any means. And
No.
so I think kind of what we're seeing is, some the Nuggets are the Nuggets. I think they're reestablishing themselves as that, or more so Jokic is Jokic. And then they've sort of surrounded him with the perfect pieces. And once they find their footing in a series, like, they don't panic. So it's sort of like that's kind of where you're at. But I think most of these teams who haven't been in this situation before, and most of them really have not, I think there is, you lose a game, you just let it get away. I think the frustrations and all this, and then, again, we don't have a situation where, I mean, it was hard to put some teams in the past away. I don't think it is as hard these days. And so I think that's what we're seeing. And I think, again, what we're seeing is, one of the weakest conference slates that we've ever seen in the East. And I know Heat fans are going to look at that and say, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I say woulda, coulda, shoulda, won a couple more games in the regular season. Might not have been in that position. So, I mean, these are the same teams. You say, we would beat them. Well, okay, then win 1 or 2 more games and beat them in the regular season. And then at least you have some control of your destiny, which right now they don't have. So I think that's where I'm at with it. And again, I think that we'll see more competition as we go forward. I think we're kind of looking again back at a Boston-Denver series. I'll say this, if you play, I should have done it last week. There's a lot of things I should have done, like finally sold my GameStop and AMC stocks right before they soared up again. Literally, I'm the reason for that. But But I mean, Boston and Denver, like to me, if you played that like a week ago, you would have gotten a crazy odds on it. Whereas before it was the chalk, and I just think we're headed back to it. I just don't see either of these teams really. It's in the Knicks state. I don't see how they push Boston and Denver. I just think their experience and just their basketball IQ and it ultimately overcomes anybody they face in the next round.
Yeah, they seemed almost comatose in that second game against Minnesota, and then Minnesota opened up a big mouth, which is one of the things that Lubie wanted to get into with you here today in discussing the Heat off season. I love the state of the Riley address, the State of the Heat address by Pat Riley. I know that those have been some classic press conferences. Everybody goes back to the LeBron James deal where he started talking about, it takes courage to do this and that, and it takes some guts. What did you make of this whole thing with Jimmy Butler? I mean, much has been made of it. I mean, is that just status quo for the way the Heat approach things, that it's okay to say, hey, Jimmy Butler, shut your mouth? Or do you think that might have created a little bit of a divide?
Part of this is it's a 79-year-old man. It doesn't give a bleep what anybody thinks at this point.
See, I started feeling that way, as soon as the clock turned to 70. And
I turned that way at 30. I'll say this. I think that I don't think he intended to go as all in on Jimmy as he did. I think it was really a press conference about availability. I think he was speaking for the owner about that. And I also think he was speaking to the fans about that. And it's just that the Jimmy Butler thing fits into the availability because if you're going to pay someone $111 million, you're expecting them to be available. I mean, that's really where it's at. Now where does it play at now? I think that Jimmy's – I think we're at a stage here where, to me, there's one of two ways this plays out. I don't think there's really a third or fourth way, okay? I don't think he's being traded. And I also don't think that he's just going to play out the year and then opt into his contract and stay with the Heat. I think it's one of two things. I think they either bend on giving him the contract, and there won't be stipulations, by the way. He's not going to take less than the $111 million. It's really 58 because, I mean, that first year it's an extra 3. It's really like 61 total. So he's either going to opt into that. He's either going to take the extension, okay, because they offer it, because they bend on it, or he's going to play out his final season, and then he's going to opt out of his player option, and he's going to look to leave. That's really where it's at. And I don't, that's the Heat have to decide, and they probably already have, if they're comfortable with that. Like, are we comfortable getting one FU year from Jimmy, which could be a very productive year, FU at the world, but also FU at us. And he balls out. We have to deal with the distractions of it. And then he's going to walk after the season. That's what they have to determine, because that's my understanding. The agent can say things publicly. I know what's going on in the background. I know kind of what he has to say. And I know what the real belief is in Jimmy's camp of what Jimmy's going to do. So that's where I'm at. And so I think it's going to be one of those two things. I think it's more likely that they give him the extension, but you're dealing with two stubborn gentlemen here. I don't know for sure. And I don't think it's just Pat who has reservations about the extension. I think it's above him at this point.
Well, look, and you've said this with us, that they've already done things with Jimmy they haven't done with anyone in the past, including LeBron James, where they've let him sort of freelance off the court. I mean, on the court, they demand high expectations from everyone, but off the court, they let him do things that LeBron wanted to do and they were like weird about. I don't know. It feels like to me they're not going to go on all this way with Butler and then just watch him go away. But I get, you never know. Riley's and Harrison, when it comes to certain things, they're very hard lines. I guess we'll see. I presume to think they'll figure something out. What's interesting is you released, or your guys released a list of guys the Heat should be interested this offseason. And I liked a lot of the names, and a lot of the names.
Well, actually, I want to be clear on that. The guy who runs our IG page released it, and good for him. But Nerlens Noel was on that list. I was like, what? Okay. So anyway,
I'm focused on the score. Ingram.
Unfortunately, the boss doesn't see everything before he put out. But there were some names. There were some names on there that are possible targets. Yes.
So like Ingram, Mitchell, Durant, guys. Look, they need scoring. That's really what gets them in trouble a lot with Butler. Bam, as we've talked about, has his moments, but is not assertive. He's really more of a number 3 on a contender, maybe a 2A on a contender. Just not because of ability, but because of who he is. He seems to like settling into that role. and they need someone to pick up the scoring. And there's a few of those guys that could be available this offseason. What do you see them doing? Because to me, in the past, they've honed in on one guy so much that I think the smart move is to pick 3 or 4 guys, because it's hard for me to see them go through this offseason and not get someone. Like, if you keep Butler, you need someone.
I just want to push back on one thing, because I know it's out there. I mean, they did go out and get Terry Rozier during the season.
Yes, and he was
not considered to be a primary target. So they have pivoted. Sometimes it'll take months or for an opportunity to present itself, but they did. It just didn't work. Just didn't work out because the guy got hurt. So that's kind of part of it. But I think that I think as you look at it, you have to make a decision here, like making a move to make a move, and then what are you looking at? So like Mitchell, okay, I understand the arguments for like emptying, the chamber there. Like, okay, I wouldn't trade Jovic. I didn't have to, but I understand the arguments. Durant, they've gone after, and it's been closer a couple of times than people really knew. So they always cycle back, and I don't know what the owner's going to do. There's a lot of noise with stuff Stephen A is talking about. I don't know if KD's going to want to take the reputation hit to force his way out again. I mean, it was this like the 13th time. But I can understand it there. But then you start to drop, and then okay, like we did a whole podcast about how you can't really have 3 max guys anymore. You can't even have a guy making what Tyler's making, honestly, if you try to stay out of the second apron and have flexibility in your roster. They've got 2 guys making what Tyler's making, and him and Rozier. Okay, but now we're talking about upping that another $20 million for Trae Young, or for Brandon Ingram. I mean, Brandon Ingram, they literally are moving on from him they decided to go with Trey Murphy III, and he didn't really play much in the playoffs during crunch time because they said fit with Zion, I guess. But I mean, there's always been a bit of an issue there, but it also seemed like there was more to it. So he wants an extension. Like, are you extending Brandon? Like, if your core going forward is Bam, Jimmy, and Ingram, like, I understand if you're pivoting from Jimmy, going to get a guy in Bam's time frame, and paying that kind of money to sort of replace Jimmy, I guess, and then build with the other young guys that you keep. But if you're keeping Jimmy, I mean, it's either all in Mitchell or Durant, or otherwise, what are we doing here? Even Trey, like we just did a podcast about Trey. Obviously, there's a lot of noise there. You're going to spend that on a 5'11" guard who doesn't defend. I mean, I understand, again, the upside. He'll unlock Bam. Yeah. He's an elite long range shooter. I get all those things. He's a high assist guy. But there are deficiencies that you can't ignore. They're not going to coach Trae Young to be taller. Like I don't. He's never going to be even a below average defender. He's literally the worst guard defender in the league.
Oh, geez.
So people were by the metrics. So like you're frustrated by Tyler. Like then you're going to bring in this guy to get hunted. And then what are we doing here? You're trading Rozier to get him. You're going to play him with Tyler, or you're trading both of them. So I come back to this. I still think the most likely scenario here is that they trade Tyler for parts that fit better.
Okay.
I think we're heading more towards the Eddie Jones trade, not the one where they got him, but the one where they traded him. The one where they got Antoine Walker and Posey and those guys, where it's, okay, Eddie, thank you for your service. You were our lead guy for a little while, but we just saw it in the playoffs. If you remember Eddie in that postseason, Dwayne got hurt against Detroit, and then Eddie went 1 for 9 in a game 6 when they desperately needed him. That was it. Yeah. And I kind of feel like with Tyler, that's the same thing. Hero. So I sort of feel like that's where we're headed here. And some Heat fans who just want Tyler off the team are going to be happy with it, but they better get some size if they're doing that. They got to get some positional size.
Me and Eddie Jones. Still an embarrassment in my lifetime. When I was screaming, and not particularly flattering things at Eddie Jones when he had 5 turnovers in that one game I'm in the stands there, and I'm saying all kinds of things. And sure enough, his family was sitting right in front of me.
Who are nice people.
Boy, did I feel like an asshole when I found that out.
And they are nice people. So,
no, very nice. And Eddie Jones.
Well, they were until that day. That changed them forever.
I couldn't have seen any more venomous looks. I don't think Michael Cohen got that kind of look from Donald Trump yesterday when he was on the stand. Although I don't think the Trumpster even had his eyes open at that point. I know you got to run. We thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Fortunately for the 5 Reasons community, there won't be a lot to speculate upon about the Heat during the offseason. Just seems routinely cut and dry. Coming back. back, stand and pat. Thanks so much for being with us. Ethan Scoop Skolnick, ladies and gentlemen.
Look, there's no whether agreeing or disagreeing. Ethan knows the Heat as well as anyone. We respect his opinion. They're potting all the time here on 5 Reasons Sports Network about the Heat. We just like touching base with him on what's going on with the Heat. I think they do something this offseason. I don't think they need to clean the coffers either. Mitchell has made it clear he wants to leave. Durant may not be willing to ask output. To me, I know Ishbia, the guy who runs the Suns or owns the Suns, has come out and said that we're not going to do an overhaul. Okay. The three of those guys together doesn't work. And Durant's the older one. It feels like at some point, like, that's going to end. So I think the Heat are going to have their opportunities this offseason. We'll see what they're able to cash in on. Jimmy Butler, to me, after all they've done to with Butler to just end things, I don't see it ending that badly. It just feels like what they've given into and allowed, they're going to work it out. It just, for me, I know Ethan knows a lot more than I do. And it said he said he's leaning that way too. It'll be an interesting offseason for the Miami Heat. The NBA playoffs are all over the place, night in, night out. But it feels like we know who the two best teams are. It feels like we know who's going to be there at the end. And I think even with Porzingis, the Nuggets would kick the Celtics' ass. I think without Porzingis, the Nuggets beat the Celtics in 5. We'll see if we get there. We talk each and every morning there on South Florida Live, 8 to 9. Check that out, the YouTube, the Facebook page. We do a couple national podcasts, a daily, nofilter.net. But really, just Google Caffeine TV, The Morning Briefing. You can check us talking more national stuff. And we do sports, but I like to have some conversations outside of the world of sports. We have really fun, interesting conversations. The Believe Network, BLEAV.com, search after hours. And our South Florida skewed content right here. The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. What if I told you you could go to a great restaurant, feel completely safe because their COVID protocol is unmatched, have an amazing meal, have a great time. When the bill comes, you won't get sticker shock. You're going to say, that's too good to be true. No, it's not, because I'm talking about Texas Roadhouse. Great family atmosphere, great atmosphere for a couple, great atmosphere if you just want to go by yourself and watch a game and have the coldest beer in town. And while you're doing that, have the best bread in town. All at Texas Roadhouse. Everything you get there is fresh every day and made sure it's served at your table, hot and ready to go. And the best part is you don't get sticker shock because the prices are amazing. Texas Roadhouse.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.